When I visited the boardroom of Forrester Creations, I found that the atmosphere was really quiet. Sunshine that entered the room through windows that went from floor to ceiling produced crisp shadows on the conference table, which had been polished. The rooms were filled with windows that reached from floor to ceiling. While Ridge Forrester sat in front of the chamber with his arms crossed over his chest, he wore a worried expression on his face. He appeared to be taking something very seriously. Carter Walton, who was seated next to him, was slouched to the side in a chair, and his normally calm expression had been replaced with one of concern and defiance. Due to the fact that the air between them crackled with words that were not said, you were able to feel the tension that had been generated by their discourse. Ridge inhaled deeply and made an effort to collect his thoughts before proceeding with the conversation. In addition to speaking in his capacity as Carter's boss, he was also speaking in his capacity as a friend. He was speaking in both of these capacities. A buddy who cared deeply not only about the man that Carter had been in the past, but also about the man that he may become in the future. He was someone who was enthusiastic about both of these things. The word Carter was spoken by Ridge in a manner that was not in the least bit intimidating from the very beginning. You know why we're here. When things get out of hand, beauty is no longer a worry. Thus, it is necessary that you take a look at the current condition of affairs. At this point, beauty is no longer significant. This condition that you have created is having an effect on more than just you. It is also having an effect on you. It is having an effect on everyone. Although the muscles in Carter's jaw clenched, he did not make a sound out of his mouth. Either he stared down at the table, as if he could find safety from it, or he grabbed the arms of his chair, as if they could save him from his footing. Both of these ways of looking at things were effective. On the other hand, neither of these choices was appropriate. Ridge concluded his remarks by saying, "You are without a doubt one of the most talented individuals I have ever had the opportunity to collaborate with. The fact that you are devoted to this organization and that you are loyal to this family is something that you cannot conceal. It is impossible for you to do so." That came about on a rapid basis. There was a brief pause, and then he gave some thought to the words that he would employ. This assertion is absolutely and utterly, completely and entirely inaccurate in a number of ways that appear to have become misdirected in the recent past in terms of what characterizes the things that genuinely count. An expression of annoyance appeared on Carter's face as he looked up, his dark pools emitting a shimmering appearance. "What exactly do you think it is that I have failed to perceive, Ridge? On the other hand, what do you take into consideration? How loyal are you to others? What kind of family do you have? Starting from the very beginning, I have consistently demonstrated my unwavering loyalty to this company. In reference to you especially, a single step, on the other hand, does not constitute a roadway in this case." Ridge's brow, on the other hand, developed a furrow that was even more profound. "This is not about us." She made it clear to Carter, and she was absolutely correct. "I would like for you to take note of this. As a result of the decisions you've made in the past and the risks you've taken in the past, you are putting everything that we have built in peril by giving us this opportunity." Request made by a companion that is intended to. Subsequently, Carter abruptly stood up and started walking around the entire room. He did this without any prior warning. To put it into perspective, are you referring to the chance of getting harmed? This group, Ridge, has always been linked with taking risks, and that association has persisted throughout its history. Those ideas that are not only good, but also bold. The fact of the matter is that this was the driving force behind the establishment of Forrester Creations in the first place. It appeared as though Ridge's skull had been shaken with a club. Putting everything on the line for reasons that are entirely your own is not the same as taking a risk that has been carefully considered. They're off the rights. An important distinction can be made between the two. It is quite dangerous for you to continue acting in the manner that you have been. In addition to the business aspect, there must be more to this. I am unable to access it at this time. Those individuals who love you have been removed from their relationship with you. The people who have demonstrated their support for you in various occasions. During the time that Carter was walking away from Ridge, he slowed down and eventually stopped walking. Then, he continued, stating, "You don't realize." This was the following statement. On the other hand, you have no idea what it is like to go through life with the sensation that you are always living in the shadow of another person. When you have the impression that you are providing everything you have, but it is never enough to fulfill your essential requirements. Ridge's demeanor was one of seriousness, and he leaned in extremely close to his friend. Ridge's mood was one of seriousness. You seem to have the sense that I am unable to comprehend what you are saying. In my entire life, Carter, I have been putting in a lot of effort to ensure that I am able to meet the expectations that my father has set for me. For the sake of proving that I am worthy of carrying on his legacy, I am making an effort. I am accustomed to dealing with types of pressures that are similar to these. On the other hand, you do not have to give in to the temptation to let it devour you. As Carter twisted his head to look at him, he displayed a look that conveyed both anger and a sense of helplessness on his face. Unfortunately, I must inform you that the pressure is not the only one that is present. It appears that there is an issue with the judgment. Those eyes and ears that are located behind my right shoulder. Every single one of them is under the impression that they are looking out for my best interests, but nobody actually pays attention to what it is that I desire. In addition to that, Ridge expressed his sincerity by saying, "I'm listening now. Please, Carter, tell me whatever it is that you want to say. I'm waiting for you. Kindly explain to me what it is that you consider to be the reason that you tend to push all of us away. A chance to showcase your capabilities and skills." Carter took a little break in his speech before continuing. There was a stillness that existed between the two of them that was so dense and impenetrable that it appeared to last for an infinite amount of time. Following the finish of that, he let out a snarl that was quite unpleasant. "Do you have a desire to take into account the truth?" "Not an issue at all, that is. It is my desire to get rid of the feeling that I am an outsider. The primary responsibility that falls on my shoulders at this location is to clean up the mess that has been made by everyone else. I want people to think of me as more than just the guy who is able to sign contracts and find solutions to problems that no one else will confront. I want them to think of me as someone who is more than that." Ridge gave another lethargic nod to indicate his agreement. "In the simplest terms conceivable, Carter, you have always been more than that. You have always been more than that. You, on the other hand, are the kind of person who has always placed a significant amount of weight on being truthful. You are not the same person that you have been in the past because of the choices that you have been making in recent times. The individual I am familiar with does not appear to be this person at all." When it comes to the burden that Ridge's words have caused on him, the man who was said to not exhibit any symptoms of sagging under the weight of responsibility has shown signs of sagging and has shown signals of drooping. Ridge's statements have placed a load on him. He hardly raised his voice above a whisper as he remarked, "Perhaps I'm no longer that man for you." His voice was barely heard above a whisper. It's probable that I've evolved by this point in time. It was possible to hear Ridge's voice carrying a concerned tone as he replied, then changed back. Carter claims that it is not too late after all, despite appearances. You have at long last been presented with the opportunity to put an end to the situation that has been bothering you. With the intention of proving to everyone that you are still the guy who has earned their trust and respect, including yourself, you are going to include yourself in this demonstration. In the moment that Carter shifted his attention to Ridge, his look was a perplexing mix of excitement and agony. What will I do in the event that I am not successful? The fact that I was unable to remedy this infuriated me, and the only thought that came to my mind was, what if I am unable to fix this? As Ridge moved closer to Carter, he'd increased the distance between them by taking a step forward and placing his hand on Carter's shoulder. "There is no way that you will fail in this endeavor. If you are able to recall the motivating factor that led you to embark on this quest in the first place, then the answer is absolutely not. If you are the type of person who puts your faith in the people who love you, then the answer could not be more different. Consider the following reasons why it is essential to take into account the significance of the auction." The seriousness of the matter was brought to the attention of the room for the second time, and there was complete silence. Carter paused for a second to look down at Ridge's hand, which was softly resting on his shoulder, before directing his attention back to his friend's face. Ridge's hand was resting on his shoulder. Rather than exhibiting any signs of judgment, Ridge had only demonstrated compassion and hope. throughout the entire transaction. Carter acknowledged his inability to solve everything and stated, "I don't know if I can fix everything. On the other hand, I am not going to accept the fact that I would lose everything by saying, 'Oh well.'" Ridge greeted him with a bright smile that conveyed his encouragement in order to get off to a good start first. Not only that, but it is adequate for the time being. We begin by putting the pieces of the jigsaw together in our thoughts, and then we move on to filling in the many aspects that are still missing. A tiny release of tension occurred in Carter's body, and he gave a slight nod in response to the statement. "Hello, Ridge. It is a delight to get to know you, owing to the fact that you have not abandoned me in its whole." As a counter-argument, Ridge responded with self-assurance, "I never would. On the other side, you are obligated to make a serious vow to me, which is that you will never again keep any secrets to yourself. From point forward, there will be no more foolish actions. From this point on, this will be the means by which we carry out our business operations." There was a brief hesitation, and then Carter reached out with his hand to make contact. "A deal has been made." In response to the brief moment of relief that Ridge had experienced, he extended his hand to shake his hand. "It is a commendable thing. That being said, are you willing to get to work with me?" Making gradual advancements in progress. In an instant, the boardroom was devoid of any occupants, and Ridge had a renewed stutter in his footfall. There was a disappearance of 2 men from the room. Carter was not beyond the idea of making amends, despite the fact that he had committed an error. Ridge was able to perceive the ideal path to take and progress in the appropriate manner, because he was aware that Carter would eventually transform into the person he was supposed to be once more. Ridge was also able to recognize the appropriate path to pursue. Despite the fact that Carter had no idea what the future held for him, he stayed unwavering in his determination to take the first step in the process. Although he was well aware that it would not be an easy assignment, he felt a glimmer of optimism for the first time in a very long time since Ridge was on his side. This was the first time he had experienced such a feeling. In addition, they were going to work together to overcome any difficulties that could come their way. They were going to do this for the sake of Forrester Creations, as well as because they were of the opinion that second chances was something that ought to be pursued. They would not be afraid to face whatever was in store for them, and would do it with courage,